Everyone for joining. I think we're finally back on our normal train of fourth Tuesday meetups. We were on a little bit of like a hiatus based on previous months' schedules. So we're excited to be back on our normal scheduled timeline. So very excited that you're all here. We've got a fun lineup of all sorts of things that I'm going to walk through today, as well as in our community spotlight. We've got David here today to walk through some fun things that he's been working on, kind of create some inspiration there. We'll do our typical Q&A process and the product demo. So for those that don't know, John Pinkster, one of the Maestro developers here for the Mighty product, very involved in community, as I know I've talked to already many of you that I'm seeing on the call. So super excited to see you again. And we've been working on this project for quite a while now and are super excited to see how many of you have found us and are loving the product and have great questions, great thoughts and ideas. We love all that being shared inside of our Maestro community that we've got, MC as we call it for short. So continue to join that as we have lots of fun conversations in there between our Ask MC space where people are sharing design thoughts and ideas. We've got our Mighty user space where people share new Mighty features or thoughts or questions or find bugs. And we've got our support channels and all that. So super excited to walk through all of the fun things happening over the last month. So without wasting too much time, I'm just going to jump right into some of our fun new features that we've got. So many of you have probably ran across this either in our post in MC or maybe even saw it in the last week with the image comparison block, but that is actually a new block that we've created here in the Mighty product. And I want to walk through that here in just a second. I also want to talk about some rich text editor updates. I think since we last met, that finally did go live for everyone. And we've got a new feature already added in there. And we want to talk about some of the code view stuff. So we'll cover that as well. We've also released audio mods kind of across a ton of different blocks as Rise has released the audio feature across a lot of blocks. So following suit there, as well as I just want to touch on a numbered divider mod that we actually got rid of. So we'll cover all that here, and then we'll move on to our community spotlight. So first, this image comparison block is a really fun block that I know you guys have all seen probably when you dropped in the interactive HTML block. It was kind of like our placeholder block. And here is just a fun example of that image comparison block where you can basically have two images overlaid on top of each other. And then using this slider wheel, be able to reveal more of an image or not. So here's kind of like a fun anatomy one. I'm using transparent layers. So that's actually why you're seeing the slider guy disappear. So there's fun ways that you can use transparent layers with the images to kind of get it to blend maybe a little bit more inside of your course or not. So as you go into the Mighty block library here, that's that image comparison block. You'll have like a fun galaxy example, as we love to kind of have those here. And really a lot of functionality built into this image comparison block. Just starting out, you've got the two images that you can replace. As mentioned here, we basically take your first image and whatever that aspect ratio of that image is, just gets matched up with your second image. So you don't have to necessarily worry about matching up those sizes. We'll automatically adjust things for you. Good 16:9 ratios are also recommended, but really you could go with like any size dimension that you want with these images. Super, super flexible. We've got pretty typical our content widths. So you can adjust those based on your content flow that you've got. You can adjust the starting positions. Like let's say you wanted to reveal a little bit more or a little bit less to the learner as they initially get into this image comparison. You can certainly set that up that way. We've got the border radius, typical with our images that we've got. And we've also spent a little time thinking about, from an accessibility perspective, how this block would work, because obviously you're dealing with images and overlaying them on top of each other. So actually we took a fun path here where you can actually just create what's considered like an ARIA label or a description of the interactive itself, which a screen reader will automatically read as soon as the learner gets onto this block itself. So as far as like alt text on the images, you don't necessarily need those because you're going to be doing that on the interactive itself. And in fact, the images themselves, we just tell the screen reader to ignore in favor of the ARIA label itself. So we've got a label for this, interactive as a whole, as well as for the slider action. So you can give like different descriptions based on what you want the screen reader to describe based on you moving around the slider or them just coming across interactive within your experience. So a lot of fun ways that you can utilize that if you are focusing a lot on accessibility. So all that's built right here in that accessibility panel. So super fun, exciting. We're really excited to see what you guys create out of this. I know a lot of people have utilized, there's like a Night Labs image juxtaposition that's out there that people have leveraged in the past. So being able to just do that right now built into the Mighty block list. We also have another block that we're working on, and it's a replacement of the knowledge check block. I don't quite have that ready yet to show today, but there's going to be a lot of fun things that we'll be able to do within the knowledge checks, including being able to report to SCORM and have a lot more media involved in the knowledge check block. So little teaser, not much to show right now, but we are going to continue to see more and more Mighty blocks get revealed here throughout this year. The next thing that I wanted to mention is our rich text editor, as I had dropped a little bit of information in our last meetup with this new rich text editor that we released. It really follows a lot of the latest standards that Rise has moved with their direction. So we're following suit with that. So this is the new rich text editor style that you'll see. So a lot of the old videos that maybe you come across, the rich text bar does look a little bit different. Looks a little bit more sleek and kind of matches with the existing Rise experience now. You'll always notice the difference between the Mighty one, as you've got this whole font list that will show up. And as I had mentioned, this week we also dropped in a recently used fonts. So as you guys are utilizing fonts throughout your course, we'll just track the top 10 fonts that you've used throughout your course, and you'll be able to just see those just pop right up to the top as you guys are utilizing those fonts. You don't have to hunt down or filter for them at all. I'd also mentioned this in the last meetup, similar idea with font or with your text colors or background colors, just colors in general. We also have that same concept of recently used. So filling out that palette of just 10 last colors that you've used. And those will carry across as you go from course to course as well. So you should be able to hunt those down pretty easily. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the code editor view inside of the rich text editor. And this is a slight change that we had to make concessions on when moving to this new rich text experience, which for those of you who get into a little bit of like heavier coding functionality, there's just a little bit of a gotcha where this is going to strip out a little bit more than what our previous code editor would strip out. And so I just want to address that here, that we do have plans to more or less break out this HTML mode to allow you to really do any sort of HTML that you want to do again, as opposed to being restrictive the way it is. So just hang tight as we work through more of a long-term fix on this rich text code view. There's going to be a lot of fun features in here that you're going to be able to get introduced again. I know one of the things that someone had mentioned is anchor links. I had an anchor link video that walked through how to add anchor links throughout your course. I actually just previous to this meetup recorded a new video for that. So you can do anchor links again. There's just a slight different process on how to do that with the existing functionality that we've got built in here. But the code editor is going to get all new updates and be able to really give you that freedom that you had prior, where you're able to add all sorts of fun code functionality throughout the rich text experience. So super excited to see that continue to evolve over time as we're getting feedback from all of you. So appreciate that feedback as well. The next thing that I wanted to mention as I just roll through all of our feature updates is audio. So the audio blocks in general have been added across a lot of Rise blocks. So now you can add audio through, I think it's like 20 some different blocks that they've added, which is super cool. And then immediately you guys started reaching out and saying, hey, can we get autoplay and can we get prevent forward seeking inside of those? Love that. Love your guys' excitement. And we jumped on that right away for many of these blocks. So now, as soon as you go into the mods menu, depending on what all is existing in there, you'll see that audio functionality drop in here at the bottom of those mod menus. So you should be able to apply any of those mods as well. We are still working on the ability to add it into like the interactive blocks, like a process block or a flip card, accordions, those types of experiences where within the block more audio can kind of show up or disappear. So TBD on when we get to that, but at least for all of the simple implementations with images and note cards and all the paragraphs and headings and all those fun things, we certainly have added that as an option in our the mod menu there. So super excited about that. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the numbered block, which I think, yeah, let me go ahead and add this numbered block because Rise recently made a change with the numbered divider. So that's this numbered divider here. And many of you had maybe used the reset number mod to be able to reset that back to 1. And we have recently removed that in favor of an update that Rise made, where you now can just restart the numbering built into Rise, which is great. And you can restart that number at any number. So they actually added some other fun functionality as well. So we just pulled back our mod in favor of theirs. So you'll notice that every once in a while they'll introduce similar type functionality. And so we'll just continue to announce that as we are migrating more over to their built-in functionality over our existing mod. So it's awesome to see Rise continue to move on some of these modifications to their existing blocks. So I think that covers all of the high-level agenda items that I wanted to cover. I don't want to take up too much time. We're going to hand things over to David and get his thoughts and ideas on some of the fun things that he's been building inside of Mighty. So David, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Let me do the share. All right. So is my screen on there by chance?
Yep.
Okay. So hello, everyone. I want to give you a couple of ideas that John and I talked about a month ago of some things that we've been playing around with. And it sort of brings into scope more of the idea of the how the HTML block can be used for some more kind of like custom tools that you can add to your courses in Rise. And I'm such a huge fan of this. I mean, what John and your team have done to allow this to happen, especially for like our company works a lot in hospitality. So we have a lot of people that are like bartenders and servers and trainers and all these folks who really are not into all this training, which probably are used to. I know a lot of industries face that. And so having more custom things makes such a huge difference to get people to pay attention. So here's a few of them. I can just go through them quickly here. The first one is a rating slider. And this was created, we used Claude to create this file. And you can see in here where you can adjust the rating level, or the person can adjust their own level to say what they feel their skill level is. And we use this at the beginning to kind of set a challenge up for people. So if they want to, they have this ability to then say, okay, I think I'm going to put it down here for the exercise, a beginner, but I'm going to take the course or follow the activities, and then we'll compare at the end how I did and if I feel like I've progressed. So you give them that ability to set their own marker. And for a lot of people in sales and a lot of people who are in customer service, they're used to being rated and scored. So this kind of thing, hits home with them. So if I do this, what happens here, I set my score, and now I have recorded that. And the way this is set up and this is a wonderful thing about how Mighty interacts with Rise, is that this score is now saved to the local memory in the browser, so that the person, so that the course can recall this score later on for an evaluation. So that's sort of example number one. Example number two, and there's two of these. There's a game here, and then there's a little exercise here. You know, this is like, I would call it like drag and drop and fill in the blank, but in a much more robust kind of way. So if you're using those basic tools, you're used to using them, and what you're finding in Rise doesn't really give you the everything that you want. This actually allows you to do it on a path, includes audio. So let me just. So this will allow you to do a little drag and drop here, or that's the correct answer, but if they get the wrong answer, and then the right answer kind of thing. That's another question. And it kind of auto answers. You know, this is something that you can't do necessarily in regular Rise, but if you know, go into AI and you ask it to create something like this, you can bring it into through the Mighty Block, which is just like, to me, this was the kind of thing that I was looking for. And I was like, well, how can I build something that's got a little more engagement, that brings the user into it, that does that whole, you know, uses a gamification type format, but has like a string along where it takes the user through the process. So this is an example of something like that.
Nice.
Um, Another one is like the simple game like this. You know, there aren't any, I don't think there's any games in Rise. So that's an area where I think is kind of very useful to people that, especially that again, that have that short attention span. Here's just a simple game that we just call know, which is yes and no. Every question is a yes or no answer. So it's just a matter of watching your timer here. You can time it down, and you know, click the answer kind of thing. But really, just so simple, but it keeps the user going on it, and allows you to do. I often like compare this to where we would use flashcards a lot, because it's a kind of a basic review kind of thing. But this gives it that one more little kind of engagement level. And again, just simply created using the Claude AI, describing the game, the program, what we wanted it to do, and it just does it. It's amazing. As I guess you're seeing, I think anyway. Okay, so this would be like content sort of type learning here. I think I would describe these. And then we will go to another level. I think in a lot of our examples that we give to customers is, okay, so you got content that you're trying to do, and we only want to teach the minimum content, you know, for them to engage in their role. And then we need them to look at, well, how can I practice that? So I know you've all seen these AI agents, and they're like the latest thing. And we found, you know, using the HTML block again in Mighty, that you can actually bring this whole little setup of this question and answer chat kind of thing into your course. And in this case, we set it up so we have a waiter in a restaurant. They ask what they want at the bar. The customer asks a question, and then the waiter needs to answer the question. And in this case, so I might just say, sure. It's like for a bourbon question. So I'll say, how about a Jim Beam? One of my favorite clients. And it's gonna it's going to take that answer, and then it's going to compare it against a set of criteria that we set up, and it's going to tell you in this case that that was not the right answer, and that what you should be doing is asking the customer about what style they want first. So this is sort of like training as you go. It's that, you know, that school of thought of we want to give the user space to fail and then give them a chance to correct themselves. So here again, here I can correct it, and I can say, sure. Or wait, what's the question? Do you like sweet bourbon? Bourbons. So that's kind of going along with what the answer is asking me. Do I like that or not? And it's going to give me a point for that, but I'm still not perfect. I've still got some learning to do, whatnot. So you can add other questions on there to try to coax more information out of them to get to the points. And now this, just like the game above and the slider, the score of this is also being saved locally in the memory of the local memory. And it's going to be used a little bit later on as we do an analysis for the user.
Hey,
Um,
David, I've got a question in the chat. Can I throw at you real quick?
yeah, sure.
Specifically with the last interaction where the learner is typing in an input and then the answer that they're typing in is sent off to either OpenAI or some sort of API and you're getting a response back. What is your strategy for securing that API token that you're leveraging?
Well, we use OpenAI. So it's just a matter of going in there, signing up for an account and getting the token. And then when you tell, like we use Claude to create it. And so, Claude will explain to us, don't embed your code in your API code in the code, but, put it on the server side. So it'll walk you through that whole process. So you don't have to be afraid of trying something like that because you've never done an API or you don't know about that code. When I find that I don't know something like that, I just tell it that.
Yeah.
And it's a very sympathetic listener. It's like
Yeah.
if you have a problem, you can go to, Claude, I'm sure it will tell you whatever you need to hear. But if you're working, you're trying to solve one of these things and you don't understand, or that starts using terminology or asks you questions that you don't understand, I just tell it that, can you explain a little more about that? I don't quite get that, or I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
does
that's
that
great.
help?
I
Or
think just to add on to that too, yeah, we've seen examples where, from a testing perspective, adding your API token inside of this HTML interactive, obviously not best practices. Ideally, what you would do is you would have your server side house that API token so you can rotate that out at your own control. But you would have some sort of server side request, kind of be the mediator between OpenAI's API and your interactive. So
yeah, and like for example, we simply use SiteGround for like when we do, anything like this, or we need a server-side capability, and so it's just a matter of placing it outside the public folder
yeah,
and then referencing that back. So
yep,
it's really simple. And again, it's just something if you tell Claude, this is what I have SiteGround and I need to put it outside there, please set it up that way, and they'll just do it.
yeah, that's
It's
great.
it's amazing. Yeah. So the last little one right here for this sort of again in my world where we're trying to teach customer service, we've given the user some basic information in the game and then that sort of string along, drag and drop exercise. Then we've asked them to practice it using a chat agent or we've scored them. But it's still prompted, because the person is asking a specific question and they're telling you, how to answer it and they're guiding you. Now the third way here is where it's a total open deal, where we have an audio agent that's going to talk just like the customer and require you to answer the customer and it will evaluate you as you go. So there's no prompting. There's no, this is totally have you learned, learn.
And I think you've got audio playing, just FYI. We can't hear it, but that may be
Oh,
okay.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well,
Um,
yeah, I don't know if I can turn that on in any way, but I am.
I think under the share settings, you may have to like stop sharing, and then when you reshare, there's an option to share sound. But also, you don't necessarily have to do that if you didn't need us to hear the audio.
Oh, I see it right here. Yeah, got it. Okay. Um, so
Excuse me, waiter. Hi. We would like a drink from the bar. Can you please take our order?
yes, I'd be happy to take your order. What would you like?
I would like a bourbon with a splash of water, please. I enjoy bourbon, but I'm curious about the different styles. Can you tell?
So anyway, I could go on. It goes on and on and on, and you can just ask, kind of get in. You can get into any sort of level of conversation with this thing, and it will keep bringing you back and trying to direct you to, reply with the right answer and that kind of thing. So you got. I feel like through all that we can do with this HTML block, you've got so many ways to take a custom approach to how best it will serve your learners. The last thing is, okay, so I talked about how like the scores that for each of these things can be saved, and we can provide an assessment. So let's look at our little assessment here. I didn't finish, I should have finished the quiz thing. I didn't, I canceled it. But I put in here, I put in here that I was, my own self-assessment was 1 to 5, which will rate as 20%. Say, the score is not really 0. It would have been like maybe 80 or something because if I had finished it. And then the scenario score, if you remember, was 1 out of 4. So it's 25%. So what this has done is taken these scores, sent them back again to OpenAI and said, okay, this is the scores this person got. How do we rate that result? So we've given them three sort of ways to rate it. We explained this to OpenAI in the prompt, and it talks about an overall performance we want to know about, the learning in progress, the actual overall score. Then we want to compare the self-assessment with actual performance. We want to compare what we call knowledge versus the application, which is like the games and was a test of the knowledge, and the chat was a test of the application. So we can compare that, how the person did, and then we can give them recommendations. And this is all created again by the OpenAI takes that information, and we've given them guidelines, but it gives it back in a fully customized, sort of analysis for that user. So I don't know if anybody's interested, but I can show you just a little bit about how we used Claude to make this happen, if
Yeah,
that's of any
yeah.
value.
I know people are going to want to see that. Yep.
So what I did here was just wrote out, and this is the prompt. And I know that's like, this is super long and everything, but it really does help if you take the time to write out exactly what you want this to be and want it to do. And it helps, like if you're doing a planning for your course or whatever, obviously you'll probably have a lot of this, but you just need to translate it into something. I usually break it down and say, what is the big picture I want to happen here? And then I tell it what are the files I want to create. I want to create the slider. I want to create this game, and I go through the details of the game, about how I want to add a point or take away a point or correct or incorrect. I want 10 questions, all that kind of stuff. In the AI agent, again, I explain exactly what the agent is, what the roles are of the user and what the agent is, some examples of what we want them to say. And then the evaluation, I give them how the scores are to be compared, and then what the assessment is supposed to be based on these three tests. And then at the end, this is something that I do, which I think is really helpful. I say to it, before you do anything, summarize back for me what you think I want to have happen here. Because I oftentimes find if you send an AI off on a coding task, you've polluted the whole environment with whatever they come back with. They are referencing in their mind back to that file, and that file could have like major, misdirection in it, and you don't even realize it. And then all of a sudden you're having to correct, all these things later on that are like, oh, if I had known that they misinterpreted what I was asking for, we would have saved, an hour's or 2 hours worth of work. So that's kind of how I do it. So if I just take this and copy it, do my little Control C, and I go back to my browser and I preset this up. So here I'm just going to Control V and paste it in here, the exact thing that was in the prompt. And then we're going to give Claude a second to kind of digest it. Of course, Claude is not working right now. Oh no, okay. So, Claude is always complimentary. That's why I like using it. I understand you perfectly. You're building, uh, but anyway, it gives you back first what it is that it thinks that you want. And I find this really, as I say, really helpful to kind of suss out any issues that you're likely to come across. So if for people that haven't done something like this is, I think, a good way to do it. You can judge for yourself. And at the end, it says, would you like me to start creating the files? I can be in whatever you want. And I would just say, let's just start with the slider. Um, and what it'll do is it'll build out on the right-hand side of the screen, it's building out the code. And if we have just a moment, John, I don't know, it
Yeah.
won't take that long.
Yeah. No
Um,
problem.
we'll actually build it, and you can see how good just a simple first try can be with what it will do for you. And then you can go in and tell it, I don't like the way that looks, or I don't like the way that works. Please change it for me, that kind of thing. And how easy it is, right up here where it says copy, there's a drop down here, and you will just download the file onto your computer, and you rename it as index, zip it up, and just drop it into the HTML block in Mighty, and it's like instantly appears exactly correctly. And you think that people that will look at it will think, wow, you spent a huge amount of time doing this, and look at how professional you are, and all that kind of stuff. And look at that, you just created you know a working slider in like a matter of, what did that take, a minute, less than a minute probably, right?
Yeah.
So that's just an example. So I might go back now and say, can you separate that out or make that more bold, or whatever, and it will do that. Or you can go on to the next file and ask it to create the next piece for you. So anyway,
Yeah.
so those are some things that I'm excited about, and we're excited about here, and just the whole Mighty experience with this is beyond anything I ever thought would be possible with Rise, because Rise was always the hated stepchild. If you used Storyline, you loved it because it had all that flexibility, but Rise did not. And now, with everything you already do with Mighty, and now having this, it's like there's nothing that's not possible, I don't think. Anyway.
Yeah, I love seeing this. A lot of inspiration. You're getting a lot of love in the chat, which I'm sure you haven't been able to check, but it'd be good for you to go watch that. But I want to second the planning mode thing. That's been huge, I think, over the last couple of months, of being able to have it summarize what its action steps are before doing that, and making sure that it has a good idea as to how it wants to proceed, and that you agree with that before you start to send it down this bad rabbit hole, because sometimes getting back out of that is almost impossible and you've got to start over. So doing that summary is a very good suggestion there. Appreciate you sharing that, David. I
Yeah.
want to open this up, Q&A, to anyone. Feel free to unmute if you want to ask David a question, or feel free to drop a question into the chat. I know one of the questions, as we're getting prepped for anyone who wants to ask a question, one of the questions, David, that was thrown out there is in regards to how you were storing the results as you go from interactive to interactive. And if that persists as you like close your window, you come back, the next day to finish out your training. How did you build that out?
Yeah, I think that is probably a weakness in it. I don't know if it's going to persist beyond that browser window. So I think that you would probably have to take it to the next level, which would be some sort of XAPI, where you're going to actually tell the LMS to save a specific value, which is a little different than what we're doing, but it's certainly totally possible. I mean, I would think that if you went into any of these AI things, they would understand what that meant. And
Yeah.
you would say that, okay, it's nice that it persists for that exercise in that browser window and lets me get to the evaluation, blah, blah. But I need to also have it saved in my LMS. How do I do that? And again, for me, I'm not a like professional coder person. It's just a matter of challenging the AI to deliver the solution that you need and not giving up and just persisting with it and saying, this is what I needed to do. Let's take it step by step. And, how can we figure this out? And I'm sure there's a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah,
A
as you
little more.
mentioned, storing that in XAPI or SCORM 2004, you can certainly put that information in and recall it back. As you see with the reflection block, we do that with Mighty. So you could certainly do that as well with your custom interactive HTMLs. There's also local storage versus session storage from a developer perspective. And again, as David's calling out, just like tell AI what you want it to do and let it give you suggestions and the benefits, pros and cons of why using one over the other, and definitely make that decision based on where you're at. Nate, you've got a good question about how much debugging that the project would take versus getting it right quickly, and kind of what your process is like on iterations, essentially.
Yeah, there can be a lot of debugging, and so you need to be patient. And I think sometimes an ounce of planning, like we're talking about, and prevention is better than spending a lot of the time debugging. But if you do get into a debugging situation, again, to me, it's telling, like if you're doing something web-based, it's, you got error message in the console, you can always pull stuff like that out and you can paste it into um, the uh, uh, the Claude window and submit it right directly to Claude or whatever your service is, and they will interpret it and say, "Oh, I can see what's happening here. I see why this is not working. Here's the fix." And you can say, "Don't give me the fix. I just need a whole new fresh file." And it will just give you the whole fixed file, and you just download it again, and you're good to go. But yeah, it can take 3, 4, 5, 10, who knows? Sometimes it can take, if it's some little sticky point that you want to operate in a very specific way, it can take a few times. And, again, that comes like now I think more about it, as I was saying from the beginning, is trying to be a little as specific as you can, take the time to write out a super long thing like I did, so that you're covering as many scenarios as you can.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Another question that Megan asked about Claude versus Copilot. I've actually had a lot of conversations with people who are only able to use a specific AI tool. A lot of times it's Copilot through their Microsoft 365 subscription. Curious, I mean, if you have personal examples of using Copilot, or if there's a reason that you've landed in Claude. I guess just generally, if you've got any thoughts to share on, what system you're using and why.
I apologize. I've only tried Chat GPT and Claude, and I did that because I have a really good friend who's like a guru in this, and he told me that Claude was the one to use for what you wanted to do. So I didn't go any further than that. So it's probably my own fault that I didn't explore any of the other tools. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think my limited experience with Copilot is if you're just using the general web-based Copilot prompts, they are not today where Claude and ChatGPT are. But that being said, as everyone knows, it's this crazy mountain race. So like everyone will have a moment where they're like way ahead of the curve, and then someone else will pop up with the next model. So they're all continuously getting better. I saw this, TJ, thanks for sharing this idea as well. If you can get Copilot connected to VS Code, VS Studio Code locally, it's an app that you can install. It's a developer tool, and that can connect up through GitHub, and it's still under that Copilot license. That's another avenue that you could go, which that certainly feels like it is handling a lot of these types of interactions better than the web-based Copilot implementation. Um, so um, if you're able to do that, that would be an awesome path to proceed with. Anyone have any other questions that they want to ask, or maybe one that I missed in the chat window before we kind of move out to general Q&A slash a demo? Feel free to unmute if you want. Megan, a lot of people are asking, sorry, David, Megan's asking, and I've seen this question before about code catalog, and if you're able slash interested in sharing some of maybe your prompts or any of the interactions that you've built inside of the Maestro community, you could do in code catalog or what have you. Curious if you've got interest in being able to share some of that out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Well, continuing to open up Q&A. I mean, I guess, David, first of all, thanks for sharing all this. Super inspirational. Again, you're getting lots of love in the chat. And as I had met with you in my one-on-one, I knew this would be a hit because it's a very aligned with a lot of the topics that we've talked about. So appreciate you sharing this and kind of walking through your process as well at the end. That was awesome to see. I know very inspirational for a lot of the people here on the call today.
Well, thanks, John. My pleasure.
Awesome. Um, Anyone else have any other general Q&A questions regarding Mighty that maybe I could help answer before I do want to do a quick demo at the end of this for anyone who is new to Mighty, so you can get a little bit of a walkthrough of how Mighty works. Just give that a minute real quick. Any questions at all? I guess if you've got any, or if anyone is new to Mighty, if you don't mind dropping that in the chat, I'd love to know if you've never used Mighty before, and I can certainly walk through a little bit deeper dive on some things if not. I think Karen, yep, we did mention David's going to drop some things into the Maestro community, so keep your eyes out over there. Cool. I'm going to dive into our demo then. So for those finding this video after the fact and or on the call that are new to Mighty, as mentioned, Mighty is just an add-on on top of Articulate Rise. It is a Chrome extension provided by Maestro, and we are on the ground working on all sorts of courses with you guys and have felt a lot of the features that were lacking in Rise versus Storyline and kind of wanted to bridge the gap, hence why we built this Chrome extension and are super excited to get that out to all of you guys to be able to leverage and level up your courses. It is just built on the Chrome extension platform, available on Edge or Chrome. You'll find it all through the Chrome store. And once you install the extension, it just adds directly into the Rise user interface. And as you'll see here, as I walk through the demo, I mean, it's very seamlessly integrated into the Rise experience. Really anywhere that you see this like mighty magenta color, these are all of the Mighty features that we've added throughout the Rise product. So kind of starting at the top level, some of the things that I love to show is quick sort. And this quick sort option just allows you to quickly sort your blocks in your Rise course. So if you wanted to be able to move around this block, and let's say we wanted to drop it way down here, it's kind of a painful process with the native Rise experience, as you got to click these arrows, and it kind of is jarring and throws you around a little bit. But with the quick sort, you can just go right to statement B. If it's not in your view, it'll auto scroll you down, and then you can literally just drag and drop it into the new location, and you'll see it just immediately moved, almost moved so fast I didn't realize it moved. So you can do that. You can shift click if you want to grab a group of blocks and move those around. And you can even regroup blocks together by holding command and grabbing all those blocks that are not together, dragging them in. And then once you drop them, it'll pull them all together for you as well. There's another fun hidden thing here where if you're ever using power-ups and it'll ask you about a block ID, you can actually just right click anywhere on the quick sort and it will give you that block ID. So if you need quick access to those block IDs, you can certainly do that by just right clicking on this sidebar here. So that's the quick sort, a lot of fun, very easy to move around blocks. We also have a quick way to jump from lesson to lesson. So that way you don't have to always go back to the cover page and then go to the next lesson. Especially helpful if you're just like starting to proof through lesson by lesson, all the blocks, or just like quickly jump back and forth. Going back to your cover page and trying to remember which lesson you just jumped from and where you need to go next. We've all been there before. So just getting right into this quick sort menu is great to be able to just jump quickly between different lessons. And then, as I'd mentioned, the power-ups, all the power-ups live over here. And we've got the ability for publishing to web. You can hide the cover page. You can override the course title itself, allowing you to organize content in Rise's user interface and have it be titled differently than what you would use when you publish your course. And the learner slash reviewer sees those. So that's a great feature to have. You also have this whole custom code world. So if you're getting into any like custom modifications that you want to make within your Rise course with custom CSS or JavaScript that lives across your entire course, you could certainly do that as well within this custom code section. Lots of fun things that you'll find inside of the Maestro slash Mighty community, including this code catalog, which we've mentioned a couple times on this call. But this code catalog has all sorts of fun either JavaScript or interactions or HTML, like just different things that maybe you want to have like customizations applied to your course. And all of that just lives here on the code catalog. And as I had mentioned, that anchor links, I actually just updated this with a new video. You'd basically just grab some JavaScript out of here, and then you could just copy that into the JavaScript tab here and walk through the video, add your anchor links, and now you've got anchor links throughout your lessons. So all sorts of fun things that we share here, just as we have questions posed to our team on how to solve certain things like custom tab widths for the tabs block. We'll just create a code catalog item, drop it in, and then you guys have full access to those as well. So those are also super fun. Um, that's our power-ups right now. More power-ups are coming down here the road in the future. And then we've got our whole block library, as I'd mentioned, releasing this new image comparison block. But we also have the ability to do reverse hotspots, where you've got an image and you want different click targets on the image to check the learner's ability to recognize parts of that image. We've also got reflection blocks, so being able to ask open-ended questions, jumping down to this, ask an open-ended question, collect the learner's thoughts and feedback. They can download that reflection that can report to your LMS as well. We've got some updates planned for this block to be able to collect that information and then later recall it in your course as well. So lots of great fun options that you'll be able to do here. This is the reverse hotspot just to show that off. So gives you an image. You can click on different parts of the image and it will give you feedback. And then if you get an item right, 2 out of 3, it'll give you some feedback as well if you need. And it's just kind of like a whole fun learning or building experience as well. You can drop in your different hotspots on this image, give some messages when they select the correct hotspot. You can hold shift click to make sure that it stays intact, as well as a hidden one is you can do, I think it's command click or, well, hold on. It's, yeah, alt shift, which allows you to actually like circle within that radius as well. So it could be cornered or centered. Sorry, kind of a nerdy thing, but you can certainly adjust these hotspots, select those, and then give your learner the option to hunt those on the screen. So fun ways that you can utilize that. And then the interactive HTML block that David's really been walking through a lot of these custom interactives, basically being able to utilize tools like Claude, ChatGPT, etc., build up a zip file of your custom interactive and literally just drop it in your course. It'll auto load, auto adjust its heights based on your interactive size. And you can also append additional JavaScript. This is great for situations where you've got like a generic interactive that maybe you want to reuse throughout your course. So you could even pass in additional like JavaScript configurations, or you could do specific CSS overrides based on different implementations that maybe you want. So this is another great way to not always have to like re-download the zip, unzip it, make changes, and re-zip it back up. You can just add all those as like variables essentially, and then reutilize that throughout your different lessons. So the interactive HTML block, wide open canvas to really build any and everything that you want to build inside your RISE course. And then last but not least, the transition block, which is a lot of fun. I know many of you use the transition block. You'll see that riddled throughout this course here, where basically you can just take two blocks side by side, and instead of having it be that hard line transition, you just drop in the transition block. It immediately takes the colors above and below, blends them together, builds out this fun transition. And there's all sorts of configurations that you can get into all of the like little fine tuning and tweaking of what you want to do, as well as just choose some of the presets that we've already kind of built out with all these different updates here as well. So lots of fun ways that you can leverage that. In fact, you can even blend background images. So you can see here, we've got this fun spacer block that's got a background image, and then you just drop the transition on top of it. And then you'll see it blends these two images together to kind of do that fun transition out of that image and into the next series of blocks that you want to do. So really cool way to use transitions. And that's not all. Mighty also has mods. So for every single Rise block that exists, for the most part, we've got modifications that we've added from the columns, being able to change column spacing, to the notes card or the attachments card. Either one of these, you can really adjust all sorts of settings with those. So typically what your block would look like out of the gate for a note is like this. And there's no way to change really a lot of settings here, like the border radius, background color, things like that. All those are just like auto-determined, and you can just really update your text. But with the mod, you can certainly customize it and get the look and feel that you want, replacing the icon and positioning the icon and giving it the size. And so all sorts of fun things that you can do on existing Rise blocks. A lot of that information is found in our help center, which you can find down. I keep opening this up. This is our little Mighty assistant that we've got, and it's got the ability to just jump right to the help center. On the help center, we've documented pretty much all the features that we've got here with Mighty. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can check that out. There's lots of videos out there, different how-tos and all the feature videos, as well as this where you'll find previous Mighty meetups that we've done. We've also got a couple of video series where one of our designers recreates the Olipop website and how she did that within the Articulate Rise product. So just lots of fun things that you'll find out in the YouTube channel as well. We've got approval toolkits if you need help convincing the higher ups why Mighty is valuable for you. The way you get started is really just a free 30-day trial. Get in there, start to explore, see if it's for you and for your organization and makes sense and adds the features that you want. And once you fall in love, which many of us do immediately and honestly can't use Rise without Mighty these days, if you need help convincing those with the purse strings, this is a great approval toolkit that's got all sorts of like good analysis on time savings and things like that that they'll care most about. So a little jump start on how to sell that to your business.
Pinkster, can I pop in? We have a question from
Yep.
Karen raising her hand here.
Oh yeah. Hey Karen.
John, I watched your video about how to how that workaround to share links when using Mighty. I have two questions about it.
Yes.
When you expose the code, is there any way when you reveal that hidden code to get that code that we need? Is there any way to search for it? I have trouble locating it.
Yes. So let me first walk through what Karen is referring to. So the workaround for share links is that if the person you're sharing your course with doesn't want to install Mighty, which is understandable, you may want to give them a link that has all the Mighty features in it, but doesn't require them to install it. So preview link is not a great option. The workaround solution is you would just create a review link, which I'm just going to do this real quick. And then what you can do with the Review 360 tool is get rid of all of the like shell of reviewing the course by just grabbing the inner iframe, which is a way that we're able to like display kind of a website in a website. And so you'll see that here in just a second. So is there a way to get that quickly? There is probably a faster way, but not necessarily a way to search. Let me just show that real quick. So
Yeah,
right
it worked great with my client. I just like the next time I went in to find it again, I was like, where is that?
Yeah. So what I would always suggest you do is when you're in your course, just select on part of your course here, right click, inspect. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just scroll up until you find the first iframe, which really, unless if you're using interactives, the interactive HTML block, it might be the only iframe you see. And so
Okay.
it is going to be different based on each version of your course. And then, so that's what I would do is I would just scroll up until you kind of see this like tree, the way that it's shaped, until you
I
get to about here.
I think what you did by selecting something on the page is what
Yep.
I was missing. I never did that. So now I think that will work. My other
Perfect.
second half of the question, John, is that hidden link is what I send to the client.
Yep.
Will that link change every time I create and overwrite something?
Yes, it will not. And the reason is that this is specific to the version. So if I were to publish a new version of this
Got
course,
it.
it will retain the old version and then have the new version. So again, not ideal. When sharing a course, you can just use the same link over and over again. Which again, you can send them just the Review 360 link, but as you know, they're going to get all this other information with like comments. Like they're just not going to want any of that, right? They want just what the course looks like. So you could just share a review link and then that will be consistent as you update that from time to time to time. But if you want to like eliminate the Review 360 containers, that's how I would go about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. Trying to think if there's anything else. Any other questions, Maggie, maybe you saw, or anyone else have a question?
I think a lot of them have been answered here, but I don't know if we have a slide for it. If not, but we do want to plug our next date for our August Mighty Meetup that we have.
Yep. So next meetup that we've got is August 26th. So again, back on our fourth Tuesday of the month cadence. And I would imagine by August, we'll have other fun new features to share, hopefully including that knowledge check block that I had mentioned at the beginning. So
Thank you everyone so much for joining. Thank you, Pinkster, for sharing, but especially thank you to David for being our customer spotlight. There's so much love in the chat, so many great questions throughout, and we're really, really glad that all of you joined. So hopefully you put it on your calendar. August 26th is our next one, as Pinkster mentioned, but I think that wraps it up. Is there anything else, Pinkster?
no, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.